So today I will be going over writing on the SAT, and the topic that we are going over today is punctuations. I will cover today the semicolon and the colon itself, very popular types of questions on the SAT test. And next video, I will be going over commas and dashes and parentheses when we use them. Okay, so if you have a notebook, take out your notebook and take some notes, okay? These are very basic stuff that you should have learned in probably 7th and 8th grade, okay? So, punctuations. Writing is like a math test, applying formulas. If you understand the rules and the formulas for each things that you use in English, you will never miss any questions on the writing test. It's like you're applying a formula here. And I will be giving you guys a lot of formulas that you have to remember. And how do you remember a lot of formulas? Practice make perfect. There's a formula, you practice 1,000 questions on the SAT, you'll be very fine. So before I go over punctuations, I want to talk about independent clauses and dependent clauses. Uh, okay. Independent clauses. Very easy. Okay. Independent clauses are clauses, it's a complete sentence. Okay. So what is independent clauses? Independent clauses are clauses with subject and a verb, and it must complete a thought. Okay. Must have a subject and a verb. And the most important thing is it must complete a thought. What does that mean? It must be able to stand on its own without anything else. So it must be able to stand on its own. Okay, let me give you an example of an independent clause. It's a complete sentence. Okay, so example. Okay, example. I love reading. Well, is it an independent clause? The answer is yes. Why? We have a subject, we have a verb, and does it complete a thought? Yes. The thought is, I love reading. No need for anything else. Another example, okay. SAT writing is very fun. Okay, so this is your subject. This is your verb. And does it complete a thought? Yes, the thought is that SAT writing is very fun. Okay, does it need anything else? No. Can it stand on its own? Yes. So this is an independent clause. Very basic, but I need you to understand this before I teach you punctuations. Okay, so let's give you a non-example independent clause. Let's say, since I arrive. Okay, I'm gonna put a period here. Okay, well, does it have a subject? Yes. Does it have a verb? Yes. Does it complete a thought? No. It says, since I arrived. Well, since I arrived, what? You need something else to complete this thought, am I right? So this is not an independent clause. It cannot stand on its own. It needs something else. And basically, a clause with a subject and a verb, and it needs something else, is called a dependent clause because it depends on something else. Okay, so our two things I need you to know: dependent clause and independent clause. Independent clause is a clause with a subject and a verb, and it must complete a thought. It must be able to stand on its own. And on the SAT, you have to be able to identify which one is independent clause. Just read it to yourself, ask yourself, does it need anything else? Especially when it's just a long phrase. Sometimes it's a long fragment, sometimes it's a long dependent clause. You have to ask yourself, is this an independent clause? Why is it important? Okay, so let's move on to talk about um, semicolon. The only rule I need you to know is semicolon is used to separate two independent clauses. Let me repeat that. It is used to separate two independent clauses. Its use is the same as period. Its use is the same as period. The only difference is if you use a period, you must capitalize the first letter of the second sentence. But basically, if you want to insert a semicolon between two clauses, ask yourself, are those two independent clauses? And let me give an example. Okay? Example. I love reading. Okay? Then I put a comma right there. I love math also. Now, what should we use? A comma or a semicolon? Let's read this first sentence. I love reading. Is that an independent clause? The answer is yes, because it completes a thought. The thought is, I love reading. Well, the second one, I love math also. Is that an independent clause? Yes, because it can stand on its own. Now, if there are two independent clauses, you must separate them with a semicolon. If you put a comma right there, it's called a comma splice. So if you see a semicolon, the first question you ask yourself is, are the two sentences independent clauses? Okay, so that's the only rule I need you to remember on the SAT when you see a semicolon. Okay, it must separate two independent clauses. So the formula we give the students is independent clause, semicolon, and independent clause. Remember that. Before the semicolon must be an independent clause. After a semicolon, it must be an independent clause as well. So memorize this formula. Independent clause, semicolon, independent clause. Well, now what is the difference between this and the colon? Colon is this, okay? When do we use this? The first rule you need to know is before a colon. Before a colon, you must have an independent clause. Okay, let's keep changing. I don't know why. You must have an independent clause. That's the first rule you need to know. Ask yourself, before the colon, okay? Ask yourself, is this an independent clause? If it's not, you cannot use a colon, period, okay? So you don't get confused. Now, after the colon, keep doing that. The information must be relevant. The info must be relevant. So here's a formula. You have an IC, independent class, colon, and you have relevant information. What do I mean by that? Okay, an example. Ms. Brown is a wonderful teacher. I want to put something here, a comma here. Her method of teaching is easy to understand. Okay, now, so over here, right there, on the test, you wonder, what should I use? Should I use a comma? Should I use a semicolon? Should I use a colon? Which one is better? Now, first of all, a comma is a no-no in this case because it will create a comma splice. Why? Miss Brown is a wonderful teacher. That is an independent class. Her method of teaching is easy to understand. This is also an independent clause. It's a complete sentence. So you must not have a comma. You need either a period, a semicolon, and in this case, maybe a colon. Which one is better? Okay. A colon in this case is grammatically correct. That's perfectly fine. However, on the test, they don't ask you which one is correct. They want you to find which one is the best. Well, in this case, a colon is better than a semicolon. Why? This information, her method of teaching is easy to understand. Is it relevant to the fact that it mentioned earlier, she's a wonderful teacher? Yes, it explained to you why she's a wonderful teacher. All of this explained to you that she's a wonderful teacher because her method of teaching is easy to understand. So applying that formula, independent clause and relevant information. Okay? I don't care what's after the colon. It could be a fragment, it could be a whole sentence, it could be anything. The most important thing is it must be relevant. Let me give you an example that a lot of kids fall into. I love sports. Okay. Well, I'm gonna list out soccer, football, and tennis. Okay. What should we put here? Well, first of all, is this an independent clause? The answer is yes. Okay. Is this relevant? All of this, is it relevant to whatever I talked before this? Yes. I said I love sports. These are the example of sport that I love, right? So it's relevant to this. So we can use, in fact, a colon is best used here, nothing else. Okay. Now, there's a mistake that a lot of students make. You could put the sports I love are, and then you put like that: soccer, football, and tennis. Well, this is a mistake a lot of students make. They thought using a colon is to list out things. Well, this is listing out, yes. But is it right? The answer is no. And why? Very simple. Ask yourself the formula I gave you. IC, colon, and relevant information. Does it work? First of all, relevant information. Totally yes, this is relevant. However, is this thing Ask yourself, before the colon, is that a independent clause? Read this. The sports I love are. You don't complete any thoughts. You don't know what the sports are, right? I don't care what's after. Before the column, it must be an independent clause. In this case, it's not. So you cannot use a colon here. In fact, you don't need anything else. Okay. Another mistake student make is this. I love many sports, such as, and then colon. Now let's out the same thing: soccer, football, and tennis. Okay. Well, it looks very right to a lot of students. Okay, because you were taught that a colon is used to list out things after such as. And a lot of students do confused when they see this on the test. They're like, should I do this? Should I not? The question I'm asking you is this: is this an independent clause? I don't care what's after that. Okay, is this an independent clause? Let me read this. I love many sports such as. Can it stand on its own? The answer is no. You need something after that. Am I right? You cannot use the colon because the formula is what? Again, I see and relevant information. So no. Okay. In fact, in this case, you don't need nothing after such as. And I just want you to know, after the word are, after the word such as, these things cannot go with colons. So you don't make mistakes like that. Okay. Next video, I'm going to talk about commas, dash, and parentheses. So we complete our punctuations lessons, and I will go over examples of real SAT questions with you. I'm going to sign off right now.